Welcome back to the Crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still struggling at this exact area of resistance, while there's now less than 1 day to go until the next FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, which could heavily affect the market in the short term, while the price of Bitcoin in the shorter term is continuing to form a new price pattern that we need to pay attention to, while Ethereum is now hitting my exact price target on the price chart, but is now flashing a new warning signal in the immediate short term that we need to pay attention to, while the price of Chainlink is also starting to struggle at this major point of resistance here. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, giving you a quick update on the upcoming FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, which will be happening in less than 24 hours from now. And currently, the market is expecting an interest rate cut of 0.25% or 25 basis points as the most likely outcome. And so as of recording this video, there's about an 87.5% chance being priced into the market, about an 87.5% chance of an interest rate cut of 25 basis points, and about a 12.5% probability of no change in interest rates with tomorrow's Fed meeting. And so basically what this tells us is, depending on what the outcome will be tomorrow, that could of course affect the markets in the short term. So because the majority of the market is pricing in the rate cut, that basically means that would be the more neutral outcome if we actually see that tomorrow. And so basically, if we ultimately get the 25 basis point rate cut with tomorrow's Fed meeting, expect relatively neutral price action, maybe a little bit of volatility, but nothing too significant. Maybe a slight bullish move, considering there's still about 12% of the market that needs to basically price in that rate cut. But for the most part, if we end up seeing that interest rate cut tomorrow, then it'll be relatively neutral. Don't expect anything too significant, maybe just a little bit of short-term volatility once again. But if we see anything other than a 25 basis point rate cut tomorrow, we could potentially see a major volatile move, because the market is not pricing in really any other outcome other than that 25 basis point rate cut. Obviously, a small percentage of the market is pricing in a small percentage or a small chance of no change in interest rates happening. And so basically, if we end up seeing that outcome where there's no change in interest rates, no rate cut, no rate hike, then in that situation, we'll likely see a dump in the markets, because higher interest rates are more bearish for markets. So the market is mostly pricing in for a slightly lower interest rate after tomorrow's Fed meeting. But if we basically see the no change in interest rate outcome, then the market now has to price in for those higher interest rates than what was actually expected. And so in simple terms, all you really need to know is, if we see the 25 basis point rate cut tomorrow with tomorrow's Fed meeting, then that will be mostly neutral for markets, maybe slightly bullish, but mostly neutral. And if we see no change in interest rates, we'd likely see a dump in the short term in markets. And it's very unlikely we'll see any other outcome other than one of those two outcomes. Of course, it's unlikely that we'll see a 50 basis point rate cut. If we end up seeing that, that would likely cause a major pump in the markets. But right now, there's basically no one pricing that in. And the same can be said about an interest rate hike or increasing interest rates. Pretty much no one is expecting that. No one is pricing that in. So if we somehow see an increase in interest rates, we'll likely see a major volatile move. In that situation, it would be a volatile move towards the downside as a very likely scenario if we were to see an interest rate hike. But really, these are the most likely outcomes here: either no change in interest rates or an interest rate cut. Currently, an interest rate cut of 25 basis points being the most likely outcome. And as usual, within a matter of seconds of the new number being released tomorrow, I will be sharing that in real time over on my Twitter or X account. Link below this video over to my X or Twitter once again, if you want real-time updates for this information as soon as it gets released. But something else to keep in mind is, about half an hour after we see the rate decision, we have the Fed chair press conference, where Jerome Powell talks to the press about potential future plans of the Federal Reserve's policy at upcoming Fed meetings beyond this meeting right here. And so in other words, about half an hour or an hour after we see the rate decision, after the number gets released, we could also see a bit of volatility either to the upside or to the downside, depending on whatever Jerome Powell actually says during that press conference. So basically expect a lot of volatility roughly around this time tomorrow, a little bit before this time tomorrow, in less than 24 hours from now. But if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the weekly time frame, the supertrend indicator is still sitting in the red, indicating a larger correction or a larger bearish trend. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence to watch out for, which is technically still active on the weekly time frame. But remember, this is not a short-term signal, this is more of a longer-term signal. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, this is more of a short to mid-term signal, telling us to expect a bit of a bullish relief in the short to mid-term for most likely a period of weeks. Obviously, I'm talking about this oversold signal here in the 3-day Bitcoin RSI that I've been mentioning every day over the last 2 weeks or so. And of course, 2 weeks ago, when we saw the signal confirm, I said expect a bit of a bullish relief or maybe just some choppy sideways price action as very likely outcomes over the next couple of weeks or so. And since I said that, obviously that's exactly what we've seen as predicted. And I continue to predict this same sort of price action. Basically, the price action that we've been seeing over the last 2 weeks, I continue to predict this moving forward, at least over the next 1 or 2 weeks. It could even continue a bit further than that, but at least over the next week or so, we'll likely continue the same sort of price action that we've been seeing over the last 1 to 2 weeks. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously right now in the shorter term, the price of Bitcoin is continuing to struggle and reject from this exact area of resistance that I've been warning about since before we perfectly rejected from this area, and that's sitting in between around 92,000 to 94,000. So continue to expect a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle from within this area. But so far, as of recording this video, over the last 1 to 2 weeks, the price has been pushing a little bit further and further into this resistance each time, and still currently forming higher lows in the short term, which is of course some bullish price structure, because overall this is helping to weaken the resistance. And so basically, if we see a bullish Fed meeting tomorrow, or even a relatively neutral Fed meeting tomorrow, just as long as we don't see a bearish Fed meeting tomorrow, so basically if we see the rate cut and if the press conference is relatively bullish or relatively neutral, then soon enough in the coming days we'll likely see some sort of breakout here. It's a very likely scenario. As always, no guarantees, but basically the only way that that will not really happen, at least in my opinion, is if we see a bearish Fed meeting. So for example, if Jerome Powell is talking really bearish in the press conference, that could dump markets in the short term. So keep that in mind. Of course, expect volatility tomorrow, but at least for now, obviously we've not yet confirmed a breakout. So still expect resistance in this area, at least for now in the shorter term, in between 92 to 94,000. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, we can see once again a perfect rejection from my exact level of resistance at 94,000 here. And we're also forming an ascending triangle pattern, which is technically a bullish price pattern. Statistically speaking, more often than not, an ascending triangle pattern breaks out towards the upside compared to breaking to the downside. Roughly around 2/3 of the time, an ascending triangle pattern, this price structure right here, about 2/3 of the time it breaks out towards the upside, and about 1/3 of the time it breaks to the downside. So of course it can break to the downside. That's not impossible. It's just that's simply the less likely scenario, statistically speaking. And so this is another reason as to why I just said earlier, as long as we don't really see a bearish Fed meeting tomorrow, if we see a bullish or even a relatively neutral Fed meeting tomorrow, it's likely that soon enough we could see a breakout here, maybe in the next few days or over the next 1 week at some point soon. But once again, if we see a bearish Fed meeting, that could put a stop to this bullish relief. So overall, expect volatility tomorrow, repeating what I just said earlier. And if we actually confirm a breakout above 94,000, which means candle closes confirming above that level and actually holding above that level, in that situation, the immediate target, the next major point of resistance, would be sitting in between around 99,000 to 100,000. And the technical price target for this price pattern right here, if we first confirm the breakout above 94,000, would be sitting at roughly around 107,000, which is also a major point of resistance, really in between 106 to 107,000. But obviously between now and then, we still have this resistance at 99 to 100K. And of course, even before then, we first actually need to confirm the breakout above 94,000 in order to activate any any of these higher price targets. And so this is definitely the time to get set up ready to go on a crypto exchange to take advantage of this next trading opportunity if you want to. Not financial advice, but if you use the first link below this video in the description and in the pinned comment, that first link below the video will take you to this page right here over on the Pinex crypto exchange, where you can take advantage of some major bonuses. For example, if you make an account using that link and complete KYC, you get a 50 USDT bonus on your account, so free money from the exchange. Or if you make deposits, if you deposit just 100 USD, you get a 100 USDT bonus on your account. If you deposit 10,000, you get a $1,000 bonus onto your Pinex account. So once again, a bunch of free money from the exchange, which you can then go ahead to actually use to open trades if you want to, using the exchange's money, not even risking your own money. But once again, this right here, these bonuses are only available if you're using that first link below the video to actually make your Pinex account. Unfortunately, if you don't use that link to make your account, you can't claim any of these bonuses here. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check it out. Once again, first link below the video. But if you want a no KYC crypto exchange to place trades on, long positions, short positions, etc., an exchange that I also use myself, then for that, check out the second link below this video in the description and in the pinned comment, because that second link will take you to this page right here over on the 2bit crypto exchange, where you can also take advantage of exclusive deposit bonuses that are only available using that link. And on top of that, for the next half a day or so, there's still this event that's running right now where there's trade protection and recovery funds. And so if you make your account during this event that's running for the next half a day, if you make your account during the event, you'll get a 100% loss protection on your first futures trade on your account, up to 200 USDT in trial funds. And on top of that, if you have an existing account that you made using the link below the video to 2bit, and you saw total liquidations over 50 USDT during this event right here, then you may be eligible for recovery compensation up to 1,000 USDT depending on your liquidation. And so once again, if you want to take advantage of this, check it out, second link below this video. And remember, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and just over the last few hours, over the last one day, we've now perfectly hit my exact level that I've been targeting here at just above 94,000, based on the fact that we have a lot of liquidity sitting at just above 94,000. But even though we have, of course, been drawn towards that liquidity as expected, as the very likely scenario that I've been talking about over the last few days, we still have some more liquidity building just above the price here, sitting at around 94.7k. So of course, we've already taken out a lot of the liquidity, so it's not necessarily really as much of a signal anymore, but it's still something to at least pay attention to. At roughly 94.7k, that's still a potential price target that we could hit potentially in the coming days, depending once again on that Fed meeting tomorrow. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, overall the Bitcoin dominance is still lacking momentum to either direction. We're not really in a strong bullish trend or strong bearish trend, at least for now, in the Bitcoin dominance in the shorter term here, which means overall a lot of the major altcoins on average, of course there'll always be outliers, but on average a lot of the major altcoins will be performing very similar price action to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So obviously with this latest pump and so far this slight rejection in the short term for the price of Bitcoin here, we'll likely see something similar for a lot of major altcoins. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame right now, and just over the last one day, we've perfectly hit my exact price target within about $1 actually from 3.4k, which is the price target that I've been talking about ever since we saw the breakout at about 3.1k. Obviously that technically activated this W pattern technical price target at 3.4k. And so first we confirmed the breakout above 3.1k, and then over the next couple of days we actually saw a short-term rejection from some resistance at around 32.50. Saw a little rejection here, slight little pullback, simply retesting the previous breakout level, the previous resistance at 3,000 to 3.1k, but so far holding that as support, which is bullish price structure, and that further confirms the breakout here with once again the price target at 3.4k, which we've now pretty much exactly hit within about $1 from 3.4k, depending on what exchange you're looking at. And so now that that has perfectly played out as predicted, of course, we've now already completed that price target, so we no longer have that anymore. It's already been hit, and the next major resistance, if we break out above 3.4k, which for now is acting as resistance at 3.4k, but if we continue past that point, in that situation, the next major resistance is in between 3.6k to 3.7k. But remember, as I just said earlier, for the Bitcoin dominance here, because the Bitcoin dominance is somewhat neutral, it's likely Ethereum and a lot of major altcoins will perform very similar to whatever Bitcoin is doing, which means if Bitcoin continues to struggle at this resistance here in the short term, it's likely that Ethereum and major altcoins will also struggle a little bit around these certain points of resistance as well. And so in other words, we really need to see that breakout for Bitcoin in order to potentially continue these shorter term bullish reliefs for some of these altcoins here, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour Ethereum price chart right now, and just over the last few hours, we've now officially confirmed another overbought signal like what we saw just a few days ago, almost a week ago. And so as usual, an overbought signal is the opposite to an oversold signal. Of course, an oversold signal means we went too far to the downside too quickly in the short term, and we now need some time to reset the RSI out of oversold, which mostly forms some short-term bullish price action, not necessarily the bottom, but at least some bullish price action is likely after an oversold signal, and vice versa. An overbought signal, which what is just confirmed right here, like what we saw about a week ago. An overbought signal means we went too far to the upside too quickly, and we now need a little bit of time to reset the RSI, which means most likely a bit of a cool off in the price. Usually a slight pullback is quite likely. So overall, expect that in the short term, just a slight little reset like this in the price as a very likely scenario. And so far, as I've recorded in the video, that's already starting, and this will likely continue a little bit more of a cool off in the short term, maybe over the next couple of days. Once again, of course, with tomorrow's Fed meeting, that could really shake up in the markets. But between now and the Fed meeting, just expect a bit of a cool off as a very likely scenario is what I'm predicting. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, obviously, as I've been saying every day for weeks now, expect the price to remain in this sideways price range between this support and this resistance, and to bounce around sideways in this area. And obviously that has been perfectly playing out, and this will likely continue moving forward. I continue to predict more choppy sideways price action for Solana within this range, in between this support and this resistance. Of course, the support I'm talking about is in between 124 to 128, and the resistance I'm talking about is in between 143 to 147. And at least so far, we're continuing to perfectly bounce at my exact support and perfectly reject from this exact resistance. So basically continue to expect the price to play out the same predictions that I've been saying for weeks as a very likely scenario. Not a lot has changed over the last 1 day for Solana. So without wasting your time, getting straight into the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, and at least for now, we're still playing out this massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. Not a lot has changed over the last 1 day on this chart right here. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, we also have a smaller or shorter term bullish divergence, technically still active on the daily time frame, causing a bit of short-term choppy sideways price action during the larger bearish trend, which is being caused by the larger or longer-term bearish divergence. And so as always, it's important to understand the difference between the different time frames. Sometimes some beginners out there get confused when I talk about a bearish divergence playing out while a bullish divergence is also playing out for the same coin in this situation right here. But once again, they're on 2 different time frames. So for example, a shorter term bullish divergence might play out over a period of weeks. And of course, for a period of weeks, we can see shorter term bullish reliefs or some choppy sideways price action here and there. But that sort of price action can occur during a larger multi-month bearish trend that's ultimately been playing out over the last multiple months, thanks to this much larger bearish divergence that I also warned about months ago here on the channel. And so both of these are still currently active, still playing out, at least for now. And as for support and resistance, continue to expect a lot of support at around $2 to $2.05. And if we were to break back below $2 with confirmation in that situation, expect a bit of support at around 194 to 195 and some major support at around 182. And as for resistance, expect a lot of resistance at close to $2.20 and especially at around 230 to 240. But remember, overall, a lot of these major altcoins like XRP will likely play out very similar price action to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin continues to struggle a little longer, expect a little bit more of a shorter term struggle for XRP and other major altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink, it's a very similar situation for Chainlink. Technically speaking, the larger structure is not yet fully confirmed a reversal out of the larger bearish trend, but we do have a shorter term bullish divergence playing out and has been playing out over the last 1 week or so, for the most part being causing a short-term bullish relief relief, and more recently, a bit of choppy sideways price action, which is the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. And right now, the price is kind of just bouncing around in a bit of a short-term sideways price range between this support based on previous resistance now acting as new support, and of course, this resistance. First of all, the support that we have right now is still sitting at around $13.40 to $13.50, and the resistance is really sitting at about $15, but especially in between $15.20 to $15.70. Expect a lot of resistance around there, but once again, at pretty much exactly $15 as well, expect a decent amount of resistance right there, because $15 was the technical price target for this W pattern breakout, and obviously we've pretty much exactly hit that price target and perfectly seen two rejections or shorter term struggles, of course, around that $15 level. And so honestly, over the next one day between now and the Fed meeting, expect the price to most likely remain in this range in between roughly $13.40 towards roughly $15.20, give or take. We're likely going to remain in this range just over the next day, and then once again, depending on the outcome of tomorrow's Fed meeting, that could potentially shake up markets in the short term. So definitely stay subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And remember, if you want to trade any of these moves or get prepared to take the next trading opportunity in the price of any crypto, then get set up ready to go using those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim the massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.